Good evening, everyone.
Click they're starting.
So I'll just take a minute here to see if our folks online, everybody seems on. Thank you all for coming to this information session. And we're going to be focusing tonight on the Slocan complex fires. So fires that range from the top of the lake all the way down to the bottom of Slocan and the surrounding areas. We've got some folks online. We did hear last time that we had some difficulties online. Hopefully the setup that we have this time is going to be much better for people online as well as in the room. So the room. The format for tonight is going to be similar to what we did last time, but we're looking at a 60-minute evening. That's our aim, but we can stay 90 minutes, so an hour and a half if we haven't gotten through all the questions. Our hope is to answer as many questions both in the room and online as possible. The folks online, we recognize that it can be more difficult to ask your question, of course. We've got Cherie is here with us tonight, who is going to be reading all the questions that are online and compiling what the themes are, and we're going to try to address as many as possible. So as people are going to be coming up to the mic, I'm also going to be looking at Cherie's list and answering some of those questions on behalf of the individuals online. The format is going to be similar to last time, where we did a bit of a presentation, so an update on the fires that are going to be offered by BC Wildfire Service. And tonight we have Mark Healy, who is the new Incident Management Team Incident Commander with us. And we also have Carly DeRosier, who is the Information Officer for the Incident Management Team. I am Daniel Seguin, and I am the manager. Oh, sorry, in this case, I am the Emergency Operations Center Director for the Regional District of Central Kootenay. And we have Cherie Warden, who's here, who is our Information Officer in the RDCK EOC as well. We've got a couple of other folks that are peppered here. Ministry of Transportation is here, RCMP is here also, and some other folks from BC Wildfire Service. They're here as extra resources if ever we have questions that are better directed to them. So here is also subject matter experts. We're going to do our presentations, and then what we're asking is hold on to your questions until the end, and because a lot of questions we're hoping are going to be answered through the presentations that are going to be offered. And at the end of our presentations, it's probably going to be maybe 10, 15 minutes total, or not that much more. We'll open it up for questions, and what we're going to ask is that we form a line over here just so that we can manage the questions and that we hear everybody specifically on the microphones, because what we heard last time is the folks online couldn't hear the questions in the room, and so they couldn't actually hear whether or not their own question had been answered. So that's what we're going to try to do, and have a lineup over here, and we'll go one at a time, just like we've done in the past. I always like to add, we're all here as people. I think there's a real situation that's unfolding in the Slocan Valley that heightens those emotions. And we're all here as people. We're all doing our best. And we know that you hear with uncertainty, frustration at times. Some people have been evacuated for quite a while now, and we recognize that. So I'm going to ask you, I recognize that. And what I'm asking, just as a bit of a rule for here, is that we're still all people, and that we be soft on people and kind of hard on those questions. Like, what are the questions that we need to ask, but recognizing that we are people here. And I think we can get through an evening where I hope we can answer as many questions as possible. Okay, without further ado, I'll pass it over to Mark to kick us off with the BC Wildfire Service update.
Okay, I was going to stand up, but I feel a little more comfortable sitting down. So yeah, we came in, I think this is our third day that our team has been here now. We took control of the fire yesterday, was our first full day in control of all the fires. And what I'm basically going to show you is we do a lot of fire growth modeling using fire behavior. And so most of this presentation is going to be centered around that. So for example, this picture here shows fire 1103, and the red outline is a fire growth model that was done showing what was predicted by a computer model, what the growth would be of that fire. The orange is the actual growth. And what we can do with that is we can take that information, and when we create new models, which we're going to see on the other fires, is we can narrow down using the information we've learned to determine where the fires will grow with our growth modeling and our fire behavior predictions. So there's some key things to remember with computer modeling. They are not perfect. So, and they are computers. So for a good example of that is if we input a wind speed of 7 kilometers per hour over a 3-day model, it does a model that has a 7 kilometer an hour wind speed 24 hours a day for 3 days. We all know that wind does not do that, right? And it's affected by terrain and all of those things. So computer models are not perfect, but they give us a really good idea of what fires will do. Okay. So one of the first things we look at is we have a weather station here in the Slocan Valley. So we looked at what the predominant winds are for from 1997 through 2016 to see which way the winds commonly blow here 24 hours a day. And we take that information and we can then put that into our computer models. So this is a good example of that. So this is fire 1117. the Mulvey fire. So we did some planned ignitions from Slocan Lake on the north end of it towards the southwest corner. And we still have some more planned ignitions to do underneath that yellow circle. And when we ran this model, this is the fire growth that it predicted for us with the fire suppression that has taken place. So where we've been successful with the planned ignitions on that fire edge, it shows no growth. Where we have yet to do that, it does show significant growth. And this is a 3-day model. So from August 3rd to 6th, this is what it's telling us it may do. This is a model based on the August 1st perimeter that we had. If we had done nothing, no fire suppression whatsoever. So it would show us that it's going to impact into Slocan City.
What's happening with the people getting screwed around and that your fires, I don't care about your fires.
Well, I'm here to speak about fires.
All the people, they are to me.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate it. And I,
Shit about the fires, man. People are getting screwed around, not getting nothing. They're getting hurt because you guys are trying to help us. And these people coming to our life. I appreciate you coming. There's something wrong here. You guys are doing okay, but your helpers, the other people are screwing us up.
okay, I'm here to speak about the fires, and that's what I'm here to answer questions for. So as you can see by the computer model, with the information that we've learned so far, if we don't take action that we're trying to do, there's a really high potential that it could burn right into Slocan City. So this is fire 1069 on the eastern side of Slocan City. So this is again showing with no fire suppression for 3 days, what potentially this fire could do. So it is burning downhill at about 300 meters-ish in every 24 hours, and it will reach the first homes. As many of you know, we have constructed a guard along the western side of this fire, and our intention is to stop the fire at that guard. We don't want it to go into the interface area, to the highway, or to the homes. That's our first focus. If it keeps burning up into the mountains, the homes and people are way more important. So fire 1117 and 1228 and 1103 in the park. There is potential that they could all merge, and our prediction shows in the next 3 days or so that 1228 and 1103 will merge. They're the fires that they're listed all on the website. Yes, north of Mulvey. Mulvey, Mulvey is the southern one that you see on the picture there. That is,
Mulvey is 117, but the two that Mark is talking about specifically, the bigger one is Nemo, and then 1228 is another fire burning upslope of Nemo in the park. It exhibited quite a bit of growth the other day, but initially started as a spot fire started by lightning, and has continued to grow over the past 3 or 4 days or so. Yeah.
I will do my best, but honestly, I don't use the names because as an example, when I got here, one fire had 4 names. Right? So that makes it very confusing for me. So when I'm, there's nearly 400 people on this fire. And when but when I have to talk, I use numbers because I have to be very clear. Okay. Okay. So I'll do my best. Okay. So at the north end of Nemo, up the Rag Forest Service Road, we've opened up that road and we've constructed a fire guard off of that road down to Slocan Lake as well to try to prevent the fire moving northward as well. Here's a quick snapshot of this is you can see where the current fire perimeter is in the orange in the corner there, and then the prediction on fire 1210, which is no, that's the Komoko. Okay. And there was a fire there in 2007, which I'm sure many of you remember. I vaguely remember hearing about it, but I was not on that fire. And once it gets into that steep slope above, there is no way to stop that fire and put people there. It is not safe to do. I know you all know that. I've driven that highway many, many times and I can see that as well. So we're doing our best to make a plan of what we can do to protect at the bottom, because that's the best we can do. And it will have impacts to the highway as well. So, okay. So these are the resources we currently have on the fire. As I said, we have nearly 400 people out here on all of these fires. We're doing our best to put people in places where it strategically makes sense and keeps them safe. My job as the incident commander is to keep my people safe, along with the general public. That is my number one job. I take great pride in that. And I think it's, we can all understand that is what is the most important thing. We are doing our very best to get you back home. That is my number one job. And so therefore we're focusing on the 2 fires to the south. And we're working a lot in the Red Mountain Road area to get people, so the homes there we're able to get people back in homes in that area and sort of move towards the middle to put people back. So yeah, that's what I have for this part. And yeah, you have anything else?
Thanks, Mark. So we didn't really talk about it at this particular meeting, but there's the relationship between BC Wildfire Service and the Regional District Emergency Operations Centers, that these guys know fire and they know how to put it out and they know how to keep people safe. So from there, there's a handoff and a relationship between the Regional District and BC Wildfire where they make recommendations based on everything that you just heard about where there needs to be evacuation orders and where there need to be evacuation alerts. From their recommendations, we put the alerts in place. They're the experts, we listen to them. So that's how we're landing with, I think we've got, I think it's 5 or 6 evacuation orders that are within this specific fire complex, where we've got some around the village of Slocan, including the village of Slocan, all the way up the east side of the lake, up to Silverton, including Red Mountain Road up there, and then to the west side of Slocan Lake, where I don't remember the fire numbers. I remember the words, but the Nemo fires, so the fires that are up along the park there. So that's where we're at this point. We also have the evacuation alerts in place for the village of Silverton. So that was a good news story for us my weeks are blending now, but I think it was recently where the village was able to come off of order and onto alert. So the other part that the regional district does is that we liaise and provide support, so emergency support services for people who are evacuees. So once your property is put on evacuation alert, not if you're on order, not if you choose to leave before you're on order, but those folks that have left because they're on evacuation order, there are emergency support services that are available to them to try to give them enough to be able to be. Absolutely. I'd be happy to answer that. Absolutely. So can I continue? Well, could I address it? I'll give me 3 minutes and I'll see if I can at least present it to others as well. Okay. And it's a good question. It's a great question. What are the supports that are available? So once you get evacuated, there are supports that are available on a needs basis. So some people don't need a place to stay because they have a friend and they're going to go to their place. They have family and that's great. Some people don't have that available to them. So through ESS, once you've done your registration process, and the registration process will either happen at a reception center, and there's some that are open in different places on different times of day. For example, tomorrow there's one that's open in Caslow 10 to 2. There's also the online system where you can sign up for your own emergency support, either online or via phone. So some people like it in person, some people want to do it online. That's great. And the support services that are available, depending on the needs, are they can be accommodations, they can be food, they can be, some people need clothing because they left at the last minute. Some people need toothpaste. Some people need, based on needs, some people do choose, do not need anything, so they don't get anything. That's typically available within 72 hours. Because of the complexity of what's happened here and how long people have been away, the RDCK has been able to extend that alongside with the province, who's agreed to that support lasting for a longer amount of time. There's questions in the community about renewals. And the renewals, everything is valid. So if you have emergency support right now, everything is valid until the 6th. On the 6th, you have to renew. So you can either do that online or at a reception center. We know that everything renews on the 6th. So we're going to make sure to have people at the reception centers to be able to support that.
Or able to put money into people's account. Will they be there? Or just the volunteers?
It's a good question. So the way that we are able to, can I answer you? Well, it's my turn. There'll be time. So I will answer that because it's a good question. The way that we're able to provide support, so there's 2 ways. One is through e-transfer. The thing with the e-transfer is you have to do a little bit of work before that. So you have to have a BC Services card and you got to get that connected to your ESS profile. You can phone into the EOC and we can help you do that. You can do that at a reception center. You can also phone the ESS phone number and they're going to help you do that. The other caveat to that is that you have to have a bank account. If you don't have a bank account that is in good standing, meaning there's no overdraft on it, then money from ESS, I know there's questions and I'm going to try to keep talking because I have a few other points and we're going to open it up to questions for everyone. And we're going to make sure that we're here at least 90 minutes to be able to get to that. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Bank accounts. Thank you so much. And if you're not someone who has a bank account or has those links done between the BC card and your ESS profile, if you show up to a reception center, they're able to help you with, I think they call them vouchers. I'm going to use the wrong word, but they're able to help you in person to get support, even if you don't have a bank account. Okay, I promise we'll talk after because I want to help you get what you need, okay? I want to talk to you about it, but right now I'd like to get through my presentation and open it to questions because we talk to everyone. I'll talk to you straight. I'll give you everything I know, okay? I want to have that conversation with you. And it's also a good question. So the question was, why are those centers closed today? Why are not all centers open tomorrow? Emergency support services in British Columbia are run by volunteers. So we want to give our volunteers a break. It's hard work. They've seen a lot of people, and we understand we have been able to get supports from the province where we brought 4 people in from, I think it was Comox or something like that, that were able to come into Castlegar and at least provide more service. We're not the only people in the province pulling on our ESS volunteers. So I appreciate the patience. I know it's been slow. It can be better. I understand that, and we're trying our best, and our ESS volunteers are working their tails off. I'll tell you. So if there's other questions, I can answer them after. RDCK also provides temporary access permits, so that's part of our responsibility as well. And those are submitted online for entry potentially, or a request to enter the following day. And this is part of the relationship with BC Wildfire Service as well, where we're not the experts to say, of course you can get in, it's safe. So we go back to that #1 job that Mark was talking about, that safety of people and safety of responders. Every day we have a conversation with BC Wildfire Service. We give them the list. We say, here are the people that would like to get into an evacuation order area. They've told us this area is not safe. Those folks won't be able to go in. This area is safe. These folks are going to be able to go in. And then they connect at one of the checkpoints in the morning, and then they're able to access their homes. There's some specific reasons that we want people, or that people are allowed to go in. So that mitigation piece, that critical needing to feed pet stock, livestock, or animals at home. And then if there are utilities, so depending on plants. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Okay. Okay. There you go. So those are temporary access permits. I want to say straight up that we know that there's been challenges with that. It hasn't been necessarily a timely response. Sometimes we find out we've been busy fighting fires throughout the day. We get to it at the end of the day, and it means that you're getting phone calls late at night. You've made other plans, and you're not able to come the next day. We understand. Mark and I, and to Mark's leadership, he's done this a lot, and he's put processes in place that are going to hopefully keep things moving a little bit quicker. So that's the direction we're going in. I feel good about where we've at least started with it. So hopefully people are still going to get their temporary access permits in a timely way. I also want to speak to that just in terms of there's certain places it's too dangerous, and we're not going to be able to grant a temporary access permit. As of today, that's coming part of the conversation, part of the response that you get as somebody who's applied for those access permits, that if you're in one of those areas that's too dangerous, we're letting you know right out the bat, or right out the gate. I could show you on a map. We could look at it. And we'll see. I don't know what we can do here, but we can talk about it. So the last part that people have been asking about is property loss. It's a big question. It's scary when you're evacuated from your home and you wonder what's happened to my house. Part of that process is that we initially get a list from BC Wildfire Service. RDCK receives that. We send a group to do rapid damage assessment. From that, we take everything that we've learned. That means GPS spots on the structures that have been identified. We take photographs, we bring that back, we prepare a report that we can share with the homeowner. So you know, the rapid damage assessment is in process. So that has started now. And we're hopeful that we're going to be able to have information back to the individual homeowners or property owners soon. So I'm hopeful that it'll be this week, and that those phone calls are going to come directly to that property owner. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah.
So I'll do my very best to describe the definite two locations I can tell you that there will definitely not be access to. So if you take the Slocan River and everything on the west side of the Slocan River, that is a no-go area. We have, besides fire, there's structure protection equipment all over the roads, driveways, and we can't have that being damaged. Otherwise, we can't protect if in the event that the fire comes down there. And the other area is south of Red Mountain, the intersection of Red Mountain Road. If you draw a straight line across Red Mountain Road south to
I
all the
get
way
this
down.
too.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I hope that helps.
So
S- I- I'll say south of Slocan City. There's a pretty big gap between, say, Enterprise Creek and Slocan City. Yeah. Yeah.
perfect. So I'll just structure it a little bit. So I'll just open it up for questions at this point. We're now done the update. And again, just in order to be able to, so these folks are the leaders of the start of the question period. So this is just to be able to ensure that folks online are hearing the questions, and that it's important because some questions are going to get answered for the people online or asked by the people in the room. So we just want to make sure that folks are stepping right up to the mic and speaking clearly, and whoever is going to be best positioned to answer will answer.
Hello. I'm just going to read off my phone to keep it simple. My support worker would call me standing here a breakthrough, but I'm only doing this to uplift the voices that feel they aren't being heard by those making the decisions. I've said many things online. I have posted letters from those in the zone saying they aren't being heard. So tonight I stand here with the support of, as of right now, 78 of the locals who have signed a petition asking those who make the decisions to speak directly to those with properties along the burn line to hear their experiences before going forward with tomorrow's scheduled burn. I did have a question, but I'm going to leave it here with a plea to go and speak to those directly in the fire's line before giving the green light to a process which we cannot predict and we cannot undo. Thank you for your time and listening to the collective voices asking to be heard out at the very least.
I am Maggie. I'm going to present you with a product that BC government knows about, has refused to use, that could have had this fire out weeks ago. You have the website there, you have the name, you have the phone number. So my question to you guys is, how many notices of liabilities have you received this year? And who is your bond carrier?
I'm sorry, I actually don't know what you're talking about.
A notice of liability for all the stuff that's been done. So these fires don't need to have a backburn. That product is natural, disappears within 28 days, is not harmful to the environment, would not require truckloads of logs being taken out of people's properties to make a swath of a fire guard, would not need to have people evacuated, would not need hundreds and thousands of hectares of firewood in the forest burnt and animals. You should contract with this guy to get this product. It would have that fire out in 2 to 3 days, not weeks from now.
Yeah, my name is Wolfgang, and
I'd like to point out, especially to the RCMP, you know, about a crime that is being committed here. Same happened, from my understanding, in the Schuschwab, you know, in Lytton, in Lahaina. That is, for example, you know, so that somebody came to people's property, as a statement from a Slocan Valley resident, that when he came home, you know, his sprinkler system on the roof was turned off. His storage tank that he used for firefighting was drained. So he turned that back on, the sprinkler system on his roof, you know, so he refilled the tank again, which takes all day. Next day, when he came back to his property, the same thing happened. So whoever that was that came down there, you know, so and drained, you know, the tank for his firefighting and turned his sprinkler system off, that's a crime against humanity right there. I'm quite upset about that, you know, so because people trying to protect their homes, maybe their livestock, their property and belongings, and somebody, I don't know who that was, you know, so whether that was police or firefighters, you know, so I can't see the police doing this, but that be something the police should look into. Who turns off sprinkler systems on a roof? Who drains systems, you know, water systems, so people can't fight their fire? Yeah.
Right, and they said they went up when.
I got no names here on that, but
They drained the pond because there was about 20 fires around the property. They actually put it out last week.
with that water, you mean?
With water.
Oh.
It's just about this, like, we're sending houses right now, and then I know that's a good intention.
Oh.
If it was true, we could perform the members of that firm, and then.
Okay.
Like, to do something.
That's good to hear.
Okay. Can I ask you a question about, like, are you gonna answer this question? Or are you gonna just like?
So can I just, if we don't get to the ground rule part and just kind of try to stick to it as much as possible, I know it's gonna need a bit of patience, but I appreciate it. I think the answer, I didn't have a response to that question, but it sounds like the answer came from the community. So when there's a question, and I think that's a great point, when there's a question, we'll answer something. I can't get into policy conversations. I can't, like, let's talk about it when the snow flies. Right now, let's get some facts about this fire.
Okay. So I'm just curious, like, so you're looking at this fire growth model. Stefan posted a picture on July 31st after the rains, and there was smoldering around, but you've backburned now that looks like it's doubled or at least tripled the size of the fire that is now threatening the town of Slocan. Is that correct?
Which fire are you speaking about?
The Mulvey fire that's now moving to on the west side of Slocan City.
Okay, yeah.
So the backburn, you are directly responsible for that. Meanwhile, you're saying that you're experts in predicting these models, but you're not experts in putting them out. And so you're actually. And so what we're looking at is like, just these backburns are actually causing the major portion of problems like that are right now, that how many people are on that backburn that you created that's out of control right now. That's the Mulvey fire that you created, the backburn that you created.
Yeah, so the number of people are right up here on the screen. So
yes, but I mean, I'm saying that now that threatens a town. It wasn't, Stefan posted the picture. It was right up there. I can show you it. It was too wet to start the backburn. It was simmering. It was out. Why wasn't the ground control? Why did we have to start a whole new fire that's 3 times the size of the fire that's present right now? And I'm expecting a response.
Yeah, I'll respond to that. So depending on where these fires are at the time, it may not be safe to put people in there. So I wasn't here. And right, I'm aware of what the previous team and the previous operations staff did on that fire. And they made the choice to put that line in where it was safe to put people. And so tactic that was used was to establish a line where it's safe to work from and then extinguish that fire that was lit as part of a planned ignition.
But it didn't extinguish the fire. It's actually raging out of control now.
The fire is continuing to burn to the west. You are correct.
And so basically what I'm looking at though is that now you've actually endangered our entire community by starting this backburn. And what kind of compensation or retribution is our community going to get out of this?
The fire would have come down the mountain.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. The winds weren't coming across Gwillem Creek.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate your opinion and I'll take it under consideration.
So you haven't been here? You're just,
That's why they changed.
I-
Maybe more.
Yes, or I'm gonna put it away.
Out of bars.
A couple comments. I have friends living on Rooster Road and it's in the direct vicinity of this planned backfire starting tomorrow. They're not happy about it. They also know about the backfire she just referred to, that's the one that's out of control now. And they want to know on their behalf, what support's in place for the Ponderosa backburn schedule to prevent the fire from crossing Lemon Creek and tracking south? They want to know why there's been no structure support discussed or implemented for the men and women on Rooster Road if BCWF plans intentional ignition less than 2 kilometers from occupied homes. And why has a Lemon Creek highway cam been disabled or not operative during a time when there is no fire pressure but could be used as an important tool? Those are their questions.
Okay, so there's a few questions there. We'll get, well, Mark can answer some of that. And is that the BC Highways cam? Okay, so we do
Yes.
have people from MOTI here that might be able to speak to that as well. Okay, so we're just going to break it down into 2 components. And after the answers to this question, just so the person after you knows, I'm going to go online because there's a few questions building up and then I'll come back to you. Okay.
Okay. So for the planned ignition on the Ponderosa fire,
Yes.
you're wondering one of the questions was what compensation will be provided?
What support's in place to prevent the fire from crossing Lemon Creek?
So you're talking about firefighting resources. Is that what you're asking about?
These are their questions. I'm speaking on their behalf.
No,
because
I know,
they're
I know,
home,
but
I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to understand what it is in terms of supports.
They're
that
concerned about the
they're speaking about.
backfire crossing Lemon Creek and tracking south.
If the wind changes and blows the fire down to Lemon Creek and across the creek,
Yep.
they want to know what you're going to do about it. is
Yeah.
the question
you.
is.
Okay. So sorry, I misunderstood the question. So what we've done is we do have sprinkler protection on, I think almost every house that meets the standard to be saved. Because as you know, there are some structures that it is unsafe for people to be in there and to work on. And as well, we have every intention of continuing to build guards up and around that fire. That's what we plan to do. In the event that it does cross, the planned ignition isn't successful and it crosses the guard, we will step back and do it again. That's our plan. We have every intention of making it work. That is our main intention.
Well, you understand there's a lot of concern about backburns, especially after Shuswap happened. That was absolutely preventable. And just my comment is I'm 70 years old. I grew up in this area, and except for the last 12 years or so, I don't remember very many out of control fires in my lifetime. It was a very rare occurrence, and they were jumped on immediately is why. So we all have concerns about that. They're like, there's too much control or computer models to do or whatever instead of actual action. When I was growing up, the residents jumped in and helped. Now you've got red tape and liability issues, and that's what's causing these large fires to get out of control. You need to get on them.
So the second part of the question, so heard the comment as well that you made. And the second part of the question was, why is the highway cam closed? And the other question, I'll try to lump this one in with an online question that's about Highway 6 reopening. So it's currently closed. So maybe you can start with that, and maybe there's a second part.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Greg Kinnear. I'm the highways manager. As far as the webcam, that was news to us.
Stepping up, please. It's very difficult to hear.
Sorry about that. No, I apologize. So yeah, sorry, the webcam was news to us. There's a number of different systems and it could be a number of different issues. So we'll look into that. Sorry about that. Oh, there we are. Yeah, so yeah, not sure about the webcam, but we'll look into it. Yeah, Highway 6 is closed, Slocan to Silverton. We work closely with these guys on when it's safe to reopen. There's a number of factors and things we look at before opening the highway. So when it's safe to do so, we'll look at reopening the highway. Yeah, sorry, from Highway 6 near Slocan to close to Silverton is where the closure is. Yeah.
Pow Road.
Yep, to Pow Road. Yeah.
And it's great to discuss it. We ballpark. That compromise the safety of the workers in there that are working very hard to address these fires. And we also don't want congestion in that area that could be taken away from the efficiency of them all trying to do their jobs so they can put out these fires and eventually have you return home safe. Does that answer why the highway's closed? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to expand on the previous question as well. So for anyone that didn't catch that, the highway is closed from Pow Road to the northern intersection of Red Mountain Road with Highway 6. Thank you.
And they spoke to it, but it's closed because there's an evacuation order in place. So it's unsafe to be there.
You were talking about safety. The fire started on the Ponderosa on the 17th of July. Nobody showed up there till 5 days later to even have a look at it. And you guys are preaching safety. That was right in the zone where you want to burn. And why do we take all the resources to already start building a thing for a back burn before even putting it out? Why are we managing fires now and not putting them out? Another question. Who is liable when you guys do this back burn that's going to ruin the watershed up there, and there's 150 to 200 people that draw water from that hillside? When you guys destroy that, and in 5 years, when the roots let go and we get a mudslide like blocking the Chilcotin up past Williams Lake, who's responsible? Not you guys, because you guys are done. You guys did your job.
So I'll do my best to speak to when all the lightning came through and started all the fires. One of the memories I have is that there was like 17,000 lightning strikes, and I can't remember how many fires started, but there was a lot of fires started all at the same time. And we don't have an unlimited number of resources to put on every single fire that starts. So fires get prioritized, and the fires that are deemed to be the greatest risk, every day that prioritization happens, that is where we put our resources. So I can't speak exactly to which fires they were on that date. I was in Fort Nelson
I've been,
fighting a fire.
I've
Okay.
been around there the whole time it
Yep.
started and nobody's actually cared. The only thing I ever see anybody cared about is getting prepared to do a back burn. Why don't we put the fires out?
So that is a tactic that we use, is to use planned ignitions to put fires out.
You just said you didn't have enough people to put, but you.
No,
all
that
said-
is not what I said. What I said was that when these fires started, there was a large number of fires. And we do not have an unlimited number of resources to go to every fire when that many fires start in one day. And what we'd have now, we have 400 personnel that we're putting into the most strategic areas we can to protect the values, which are your homes and the people and the infrastructure that is in
Homes
this
are worth
area.
Nothing without water.
And I appreciate that. I draw what my own home, I draw water from a lake. So I totally understand. Okay. When we do these planned ignitions, we try to do them with as low of an intensity as we can to not damage the trees that are there, the soils that are there, the watersheds that are there. We do our very best.
How's that possible?
We do, how is that possible? With my 31 years of experience and many others like me, we understand fire behavior, the science of fire, and how we try to minimize the impacts to the lands. When we introduce fire, we don't just light up at the very bottom of the mountain and let it rip to the top. Okay? That is a very old way that fires were fought. Okay? So now we try to introduce fire in a lower intensity so that it takes away the fuels, so that it doesn't burn as deeply and create hydrophobic soils, and it doesn't take out the entire stands of forest that are there, so that we can protect what is there. Mother Nature does the same thing. And you can see it in the mosaic all across British Columbia. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure if I did, but I tried to do my
You
best.
answered it, yeah, but it's still, I'm still confused of why we didn't do anything when it first started. I know.
Mark, can you hear me?
So who's gonna be responsible when this shits and mudslides happen from it? Who's responsible after that? It's gonna happen.
Go on.
That is, I don't know, it,
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Thank you.
s-
Can you hear
Can I
me?
answer his, or
Oh, what? What did the RDCK?
Break line is about 200 meters off the road, and that they plan to burn to 800 to 1,000 meters. Why so much of that land?
So- So what I'm hearing, there's a lot of questions still about the prescribed burn that they're planning on the Ponderosa. We'll see if we can think of anything more. I do want to address one question because it's a good question. So, oh, sorry. The question, if I've understood it right, is who is liable if something happens to your watershed and you get a geotechnical hazard that happens out of that, right? So I can't speak to the liability. What I can speak is to the supports that come afterwards. From an emergency management standpoint, the regional district would be who would be supporting you. And if it did happen and you had a property in the pathway of that geotechnical hazard, what happens at the end of any fire season, there's a geotechnical assessment of the areas that have burned above where there would be properties that are below it. So we get an early warning or an early sense of what's going to be happening. So you're going to know what the risk level is. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Or not gone down, but like stayed the same. And that's publicized. So it ends up on our websites. There's a bunch of them that you can see there at RDCK's website. And it's also mailed to all the properties that are that it's relevant to. Okay. Because nothing's happened. Why would we do a geotechnical? Yeah. The geotechnical assessment is as the results of whatever the wildfire is. It's not, these guys use different thinking about why they're going to do it. And I don't want to get into their science. I am not a fire scientist. So I don't want to get into that. They're not using it. The geotechnical assessment is to understand what the gentleman here is asking about. Are we going to get a landslide? If I've understood correctly. Okay. Thank you. So I want to address a question online, and it's a question both for Wildfire Service Information Officer. So Carly's going to speak to that, as well as myself, or we'll see if it's Cherie or I. But the question is, can we speak to more timely updates and direct communication with those that are on order? So speaking to what communication we're doing, what's our plan, how we want to go about doing that, how are we reaching the folks that are evacuated, knowing that there are people that are online, people that aren't online, people that are in the community, and people that are away as well.
All right, so in terms of reaching people in the community, we have a couple community liaisons. They've been out every day. Sure, yes. They've been out in the community every day. They're going to Castlegar, they're going to Slocan, Winlaw, to chat with residents on the ground. They're also going into Slocan. They are working with the fire chief there to go meet residents on their property where they are. In addition, we're sending out detailed updates on operations, fire behavior, what we're expecting to see, the rationale behind the ignition. All of those things are going out to whoever would like that. If you would like to be added to the distribution list, by all means, let me know. My contact information is online. Phone number, email is there. You are more than welcome to phone me. That is what I'm here for. That's my job, to chat these things through with you. So there are multiple ways that people can get in touch. That is what I do. I sit at camp and I have phone conversations all day long with people who have questions and working these things out, especially around the ignition and such. And so there are multiple sources of information. You can call the fire center. You can call the incident phone. Get on a distribution list, meet folks in town. They're at the Resiliency Center in the mornings. They're going into Castlegar to the ESS Center in the afternoons. And then they will be in Slocan as well, chatting with residents on the ground. And then we also have a community liaison further north, working out of New Denver to chat with folks in New Denver about the Red Mountain Road area specifically. And she is hanging out at local community hubs to answer questions as well. So there is a number of ways that you can get in touch, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation and talk these things through anytime.
And building on that from the RDCK standpoint, we try to do a daily information bulletin that goes online and also goes onto our social media. The village offices, there's a few local community organizations or stores that have been printing that out and posting it for people that need to see it in person. It's also printed and posted at our reception centers. And so it's a mix of online that we're trying to do and in person. We're also doing another information session like this one up in, well, we don't know yet. It's either going to be Silverton or New Denver, but the northern area of the lake for people that weren't able to come here or see online. So we're trying to get as much information out as possible. Okay, there's another question online, and I think somebody in the back end asked. I don't know that I gave a good answer, so I'm going to try again. The question online and in the back was, can we get access, temporary access permit to water our gardens? And what I highlighted is that there's 3 reasons why you can get in. So if you need to access medication that was left behind, if you, my gosh, I'm blanking. It's,
Pets.
and livestock and pet stock and animals, thank you, and for utilities. Those are the 3 the 3 that you can put online. Here's what I'm also going to tell you. What we're tracking is when people keep asking to try to get in, we're watching it. We're looking at it. We're trying to understand who is trying to get in for what reason. At this point, we're still prioritizing those 3 different reasons because it's still an unsafe area. There's a reason why it's on evacuation order, and those are the 3 only reasons that we're letting people in at this time. Here.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Oh, sorry. My name is Ezra Buller. I'm a counselor here and for you guys in Slocan City. Thank you guys for being here today. I have a couple of sort of criticisms about the panel so far, and I'll get through that real quick before I ask my question. I think it's unfair or irresponsible that the highways doesn't even know that one of their webcams is out. It's like everybody looks at Drive BC all the time. You guys should be doing that. What's going on? I'm glad that you're here as an incident commander, but I think it's inappropriate that we don't have the old incident commander here because they know what's going on and he doesn't know what the whole history is, and that's unfair to all of us. And it is. It's hard to answer questions when you don't have the whole idea, and I think it's inappropriate that you don't know the whole idea as well. So sorry about that. So my main questions here revolve around timing and funding to support emergency operations such as fighting fire. And we all watched nothing happen, and we are all critical of that. And we have nothing other than to wonder why there are such slow responses, because we know there's not zero response, but it seems slower than what is practical in an environment like ours. In the old days, we had localized firefighting situations, which were called initial attack bases, and they were all over BC, and we've kind of lost track of that. I had a friend of mine that drove up on the Ponderosa on the quad saying they just dumped retardant on here, and here's a little smolder. I wonder what they're going to do. They should be up here with piss cans and Pulaskis, and that's the truth. And you guys should have been up there that day with piss cans and Pulaskis, or drop one more dump, at least on those two fires, which were insignificant at the time. Beyond that, what are we supposed to do in the future when we don't have the funding to properly fight fires? Because we saw 4 small fires turn into a raging situation here. And it's all about funding in how to mitigate disaster management and all those sorts of things. So this is to the RDCK. What are you willing to do to go to the BC government and fight for us? We all need to go to UBCM this summer together as a group of people from the Valley. That's all of our municipalities, including the regional district, and fight for more fire money. All the people of BC are burning. We need way more support. We need way more firefighters, more apparatus, more training, obviously more everything. Pardon me? I'm not shitting on them. I'm talking about what are we doing about money in this province? How are we going to fund this?
I think there's some questions in here that we can
Millions of
ask.
dollars is
Thank
being spent on these fires.
So
I'm asking, what is the political plan to support better in the future? This is the question.
So I'm down with speaking politics. I also am super aware that people are evacuated and want answers to questions that are relevant to this specific incident. I know there's a political connection to it. And that is a great conversation to have after this fire is over. I'm actually quite proud of the RDCK board that includes also Village of Silverton membership. So your mayor is on that board, and they make strong advocacy to the province on understanding EDMA. There's people in this room that know that the board chair wrote some excellent letters this year back to the province. When it comes to money, they're advocating at UBCM on a regular basis. You have elected officials in the room. Have that conversation with them. They are the best advocates, and they give direction to the regional district staff on what to do with that money. And we do our best to spend it wisely. So when it comes to wildfire service, they can advocate just as much. They can ask for 15 minutes, and you know this probably as a counselor at UBCM, to have a 15-minute one-on-one with ministers. You can do that at UBCM. So I love that you guys are advocating. This is where we land on the same team. These guys, if they could spend every single dollar in the world to put these fires out, would be amazing. I'd love to do that too. We're working within a budget and constraints just as much as your villages.
I'm just saying we need more support from
I love it.
Your side as well, so that we can all advocate together, because it is a province problem.
I appreciate that. You can reach out to me. I'm the manager of community sustainability at the regional district. I'm responsible for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. All that falls in my portfolio. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to advocate for you along with our regional district board. Thank you. I wish I had that big a checkbook. You don't want my checks. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? From the phone. Can you hear me over? Hello?
Yeah, I can answer why we replaced Jason Lawler and his team is so we work on a 14-day rotation and we generally get 4 days off. We also need rest. This is my 4th deployment this year, already 2 fires throughout the province. I fought fires in Kootenay Lake for 5 years. I presently work in Kamloops and I've been doing this for 31 years and we can't expect somebody to work the hours that we work
You come back though
for
after
the
4 days off
entire
like everybody
summer.
else does in their
My
regular
season
job?
started on May 12th, which was a little bit later than it has been in the past. And I'll probably be on fires until October sometime.
And then
So-
what? Jerking off for fucking 6
Sorry,
months.
but we need to rest as well.
Lawler and the fucking.
And we pass along as much information as we can to each other.
Hi, I think what we're bumping up against is a lot of policy. It's not necessarily people. You feel like you're getting shit on. Like no one wants to shit on each other, I don't think. But I think what's happening is we're bumping up against 50 years of really poor management in our forestry practices here in British Columbia. So we have unprecedented fires and we have unprecedented times that we don't know how to deal with these fires, right? They're just kicking up all over the place. I think around Argenta and Caslo today, there was about 175 new lightning strikes. So we're probably going to get them too. I'm just wondering when there's more fires, because these aren't the only fires, there's going to be more fires. We're all under threat. What are we going to call on more resources? We're going to call on more resources in Australia, Mexico. Are we doing it internally? Like, do we just get strapped here? That just get sent away to all these new fires that are going to start happening? And I do have more questions, but yeah.
Yeah, so we do try to get resources when we're at the prep level we're at, is what we call it, a preparedness level, from around the world. And we are not the only jurisdiction in North America who is requiring those resources. If you watch the news, south of us in the United States, they're under duress. Same in Alberta, same with the Northwest Territories. Those are the ones, including us, that are probably have the greatest impact from fire at this time. And if there are new fires in the area that is right here close to me and my team, we will be attacking those fires with the resources, some of the resources we have, because we do not want a new start to become a bigger fire. And we have been doing that on a few fires to the north of us already in the last 2 days up around the Nakusp area. So we don't just fight the fires that you can see out of your bedroom windows. We look after a much larger area, even though we're tasked and designated for these specific fires. We do the best with the resources we have to try to mitigate fires growing in size.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that as maybe we don't know what's going to happen because we can't look into the future, but it looks pretty grim for everybody.
If someone can tell me how to predict
So-
the future,
No,
I'll take the lottery numbers.
Again, with policy, I think with the new BC Emergency Act as well, I think people are very concerned, and rightly so, that they do not no longer have rights on their own property when an emergency gets declared. So I think there's just a lot of frustration and confusion, and a lot of people are scared about that. Me, myself, I'm not really as concerned about infrastructure as I am with forest health and the future of our forests. Like all our microbiome is disappearing like by the minute. So there's that. And also the policy with people who sign these papers when they're approached by whatever personnel in order to leave their property. I signed on the dotted line, but I feel like in that moment, we're not making rational decisions when we're under duress. And I think signing those basically our rights away when we're doing that, when we're agreeing to an evacuation order, that we're no longer allowed to be going back to our properties and to protect them. And what I'm seeing in the Slocan Valley, I don't know what the number was, but at least 80 people are choosing to stay home and to protect their families and to protect their investments, to protect their animals. And they actually have like a wealth of wisdom that could be drawn upon. And I'm seeing a disconnect because I'm seeing these people like who are staying in Slocan, staying in Mulvey, wherever, treated almost like a pariah, like they're in the way. But really, these are people with immense, vast resources. They know the region, they know the area, they're smart. They might not have their S100, but they know how to put out a fire. Right. So I would love to see like more resources allocated to those people who are just stranded basically because they are putting out the spot fires. They're monitoring what's going on. When the firefighters go home at 7 o'clock at night and get back at 9 o'clock in the morning, they're the ones who are looking at what's going on in the sky. So they're actually a wealth of information, and there should be more of a liaison going on instead of patrols going on in Slocan, making sure everybody's staying on their property. So I just think it's like, what's that? Yeah, like honestly, it just feels like the good old days need to come back, and you guys are doing amazing. Like, honestly, like I'm up in Mulvey and like the resources that are getting poured into that is absolutely, it's crazy making. And honestly, I'm like, just let it burn. We should just let it burn because I think doing these back burns are just creating way more havoc and way more instability for our kids in the future. So, yeah, so.
Thank you. I actually just want to, there wasn't a question there. There was a policy opinion, and it's not the time to talk about policy, but I want to clarify something that was said there that isn't accurate because it concerns me a little bit for people that aren't yet on evacuation order, because this isn't the end of the fire season, to your point. We could have more. So I just want to clarify one point. You're not signing away your property rights at the time that you're signing an evacuation order. When there's a
Dan, can
state
you
of
hear me?
local emergency that's declared, that's when rights shift, jurisdictions shift, powers are used differently by different jurisdictional levels of the we've seen it from the federal level to the provincial to the local level.
Abusive power, you
My
mean? Dan,
concern
can you hear
in
me?
what you just said is that people are going to be reluctant to signing.
There is still
That
someone
signature is for
on
us
the
to be able to
phone.
track who we've spoken to and to make sure that we know who is leaving, who is not leaving. So I'm just clarifying that at that point for people online who might be listening, that you're not signing away your rights in that moment. When there's a state of local emergency that is signed, at that point, jurisdictional powers change.
Dan, I'm in the zone. Dan.
So you also talked about EDMA and your concern about EDMA. And well, I don't want to get into big policy talks. I could nerd out with policy with you as well after, if you want.
Dan, are you there? Can you hear me?
I just want to check online. There was
no phone. Check the phone.
a specific question that you may have already spoken to, so we'll see if this is in there.
The phone.
What is the likelihood of the fire jumping Lemon Creek? Will it?
Danny, can you hear me?
Dude, you got to stop.
Dan.
Just to the guy on the phone, the room
Anything is
can't hear you,
possible.
but everybody online can.
That's a really
So
hard question
try
to
to get to your
answer.
question, but
Like
please go
if
on
a
mute.
thunderstorm were to come by and we were to have 70-kilometer-an-hour down gusts in all directions, I cannot tell you except to
Dan,
say
I'm on the phone.
some common sense. The fire will probably move in every direction. Where the fuels are receptive and where the fire will move.
Hey, guy with the phone,
That is
0042.
really hard to
Shut
predict.
up.
Yeah, that is an impossible question almost to answer. Yeah, sorry.
And I mean, we've had more conversations, so I know that you guys are putting as much effort into it to prevent things that are unexpected like that from happening as much as possible, obviously.
Okay, my name is Julia.
Julia, can I actually just say one thing? I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to go right back to you. Speak up. There are 20 minutes left before these guys have to get back to work, before I have to get back to work. So that'll be 90 minutes. So I'm asking the folks that are in the line, if you've already had a question, if there's an opportunity to let folks who have not yet asked a question, ask a question. If you have multiple questions, try to stick to your top question. And if you have a policy statement or conversation, I mean, I can have some policy conversations afterwards, but let's try to stick to some of the facts about this fire and this specific incident that can be helpful right now to people who've been evacuated. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, So this is my fourth time having been evacuated for wildfires in the province of BC. I have never in the past been out for more than 4 days. Why are we here tonight? When this is what, 3 weeks later? Leadership has been constantly changing. And the fire is just continuing to grow. We're scared. We're cranky. The ESS is not, the communication is very, very poor. The ESS is not giving what we're being told we can get from the ESS. They're not even being given the information. There's a lot of misinformation out there amongst government departments. We will be talking about the province after this, and we will be talking about the feds as well. This is not just a BC problem with all these wildfires. It is a Canadian problem. We appreciate what you guys are doing. We are getting more intel from internal from these 80 or so people that are in there, but yet why does the regional district have to punish them for staying there? They can't get supplies. They can't leave their properties. We have money invested in our gardens. I would also like you to please elaborate on what you were saying about phoning homeowners. I'm a tenant on a property. The homeowners on my property, they've gone off grid. They can't be contacted. I have, granted, I'm a tenant. It's not my building. Those are my contents in there though. I want to know when I can go home. We're losing income. Our businesses are losing income. And we're still not, we're getting facts and figures thrown at us, but not really what's really being done to stop this so we can go home. So we just really we ask the RDCK to be a little more open. And let the people that are in there give us the information we need. And as others have said before me, why not work together instead of fighting each other? Please, let's just deal with this and do it together and try and put the politics aside and deal with this fire so we people can go home. Thank you.
Can we connect after and talk ESS if you're not getting the right answers? Okay, let's talk about a phone number to get it going. Here, we do this.
I'm not. So I don't usually talk on a microphone. My name is David Bullion. I'm a Slocan City homeowner and community member. Not a very good public speaker, but here's what I'm seeing. I'm really concerned about like our friends and people up there sort of being, they didn't leave for a reason. And there's some top flight people and community members that are back there, and I'm not going to really sit here and hear any crap about them because they're some of the best people that we have. And I'm in direct contact up there, and really they feel like they're under martial law. Like this is worse than the lockdown for COVID. They don't have a curfew. They're really just segregated to their own yards, and mental health is a thing. I have issues with it myself when this kind of stuff goes on, and I'm outside in freedom. Like things are starting to get a little crazy up there. I mean, and I don't mean that as a joke. Like, can't we loosen the neck? I'm sorry. We're tight on those guys. Like we need to get some supplies up there. And when we say that we're on the ground up there talking to people, well, I've certainly never heard anybody up there was talking to anybody. Like they're basically just getting chased back into their yards or whatever. So we have looting going on up there. Now, we actually know all the people in town who are there. They're not looters. What they are like people who don't have insurance for whatever reason, code requirements, money, whatever it is. That shouldn't be a criminal act. And so what I want to do is bring, like, hopefully an answer would be like, I'm willing to like supply supplies up there, bring them, buy them at the store, drive them up to the fire line or the barricade. We need someone to be able to pick them up. Like one truck that can come down and meet me, and we do a transfer. I go home, they go up, and they divide like milk, or like what I'm hearing, it's starting to get pretty tight. So that creates a more hostile person when you're starting to go hungry and you're already like dealing with the stress of having to be in your yard. So I feel like either that, or I bring it up there and I throw it in the back of an RCMP's truck, or we start to work with those people, because someone mentioned before, man, we've got a lot of experience, like outdoor people up there who are, maybe some of our biggest assets, and assets nonetheless. And I just want to be an advocate for them. They have no voice, and I don't agree with that. And I'm not like pointing fingers at anyone here. I'm just like speaking for my friends. And thank you guys for being here on a Sunday night of the long weekend. Like, and everything that's going on out there is like, I don't agree with everything, but I'm not in the trenches. You are, and we can only say thank you, but we do have to tighten down for our brothers who were up in that fire, and sisters, sorry, our people. That's all I have.
I think you're a pretty good public speaker, Dave. So I feel for you. I appreciate that you're bringing that voice into the room. They aren't here. Some of them are potentially joining us online. We get phone calls from them as well at the EOC. And I had a phone call from an entire community today. So they're not easy ones to listen to. And I have to go back to, why do we put orders in place? Okay. So when we put orders in place, it's because of public safety. It's because of safety to our responders. That's our number one. Like he said, that's our number one job. And then we work with our CMP to make sure that that looting isn't happening. And there isn't a mechanism to have that exchange of goods happening at a checkpoint right now. If we do that, that'd be like me saying, "No, you know what? The order didn't really matter. It's safe enough for you to stay there and to keep getting food. And I don't want to starve anybody. My invitation to those people when they get hungry is to come out of the evacuation area. And the purpose isn't meant to starve them. That is not what BC Wildfire Service wants to do. It's not what I want to do. I'm not that guy. So I know it's difficult. And you're right. There are futures where we can find a different way of doing this. Is there a way to modernize that? Maybe there is. There's a way to come together and think about it as community. And I appreciate you bringing that voice into the room. Constable Kennedy here.
Yeah, so my name's Sean Kennedy, and sorry, never held a mic before. So I just want to address the looting aspect here. I've seen some stuff on Facebook. It happened at Red Mountain Road as well. There has been no theft reports to the police here. We've got people patrolling up and down. They got wildfire service patrolling up and down. All the highways are blocked right now. As our Forest Service roads, we have security moving into those spots too. If anyone actually has any information, please reach out to me, because we're here for that. That's our main thing, because yeah, a lot of folks are away from their homes, and so we're going to be there to protect them.
Thank you. Can I go online? So there is a question online. So we've talked about structure protection. We've talked about sprinklers. There's crews that go in and make assessments. Can we say a little bit more about what's being done to protect homes from fire And somebody mentioned SPUs, but maybe you can speak more.
Yeah, so we have an entire structure branch in our organization. And what they do, that we have some structure protection specialists, as well as we have the support staff there. So there's ground crews as well as engine crews who come from fire departments from all over BC. And what we do is we go in and we assess the structures, the primary structures as well as the secondary structures to see if they are defendable from fire in the event that fire comes through an area. We really appreciate people who have, fire smarted their properties, because that makes our job that much easier. It makes it so much safer for our people to be there. As some examples, there are some driveways that we cannot drive our fire trucks up. We cannot get to the houses. So it makes it very challenging then to protect those houses. Another great example, which I've experienced in the past, is like driveways that are 3 kilometers long. If we use 3 kilometers of hose to get to that one house, we could have used that same amount of equipment to protect 12 to 15 homes, right? So we have to make some hard choices. They are not easy choices to make. It's hard to make those tough choices. I don't know how else to say it. Okay. And
Oh, can you hear me? Phone call. Hello?
have made that choice many, many times as the incident commander. And I work with my staff to make sure that they make educated choices on what are feasible objectives and homes that we can save.
They do
So,
not hear you in the building.
Putting sprinklers on the house, making sure there's water there, testing those systems. That's all the things we do.
Okay, my name's Sherry. I have one comment and in what you had said and one question. So my comment is for resources. I think that we're not getting them because our premier and our prime minister has said nothing about BC being on fire. So us getting resources is probably 0 to none. He promised us and we haven't gotten. And so they haven't even said on social media. They're more concerned about everything else, but they haven't said a peep on social media at all about the wildfires going on in all of BC. Okay, so we're not getting our resources. So anyways, to my question, a couple of days ago, we had clear weather and then we had 2 days of smoke and then today was clear. We're all on our ears are like super attuned to all the helicopters or lack thereof. Today, they could have been dropping water on the mountains 2 days ago. They could have been as well. There's been, to my knowledge and other people's view, there has been no water bombing at all. And maybe you can clarify that on the mountains in the last day. And then 2 days prior to that, the point is that if Maggie's got a solution and it's a viable solution to put these fires out, we already have 2 massive fires that are out of control that you can't control. And now you're going to start another potential shit show of the Ponderosa fire when we can't control the 2 we already have.
Okay, there's a couple pieces I'd like to touch on there. I can appreciate that, yes, when the skies are clear, there is the opportunity to fly. However, if we look up at this map right here, here is a heat signature map. These flames here show you where the heat is. It is influenced by smoke. So that doesn't necessarily say where the fire is itself. I just want to correct one bit of misinformation that came up earlier, that the Mulvey Creek fire is out of control towards Slocan. As you can see here, this is where the ignition operation happened the other day. This is where we no longer have heat. What we do have, though, is firefighters working from this perimeter right here, working 100 feet in from from the perimeter of that fire where that ignition happened. And they are physically digging up the dirt, extinguishing all remaining hotspots. That is what is required for us to be secure on that containment. So as you can see, the work that's being done is limiting the heat that's in here. However, if we look over on Ponderosa, where the ignition has not occurred, we're still seeing this fire back down the slope naturally. in the evening when the sun goes down and we get the downslope winds, the risk that we're facing is of these spots spotting over the guard uncontrolled and making its way to Slocan. The issue with the aircraft, for example, is that we have around 75 people working along this guard here to establish a water delivery system to support that ignition when it happens, to make sure there's water available to moderate the intensity. There's a question about how do we moderate intensity. Firefighters are there with hose and water, spraying down trees to keep that intensity low so we can keep it a low to moderate surface fire, ground fire. With the people, I mean, yes, but look at the success we had on that ignition right there. Now we are able to, but at this point that perimeter is secure. Looking over here, we have 75 people working to do the same thing. If we are dropping water at the top of these slopes, what happens is trees that are on fire the water drops on them, they break, they roll down the slope, and that causes significant hazard when it comes to starting new fires, putting our people at risk. So there's several reasons why aircraft are not always feasible when we have a number of people on the ground, and it poses even a greater hazard to our folks on the ground. And there are situations where it's just is not operationally feasible to add that additional risk. But I guess I will leave it at that.
Okay, so I just want to, the fact is there's 2 minutes left and these guys have to go. So the wildfire questions I will not be able to answer, unfortunately, but what, Carly, I'm going to do this live. If there are wildfire questions, are you the best person to communicate that with? And we will. Okay. Okay. And what is it? So I'm going to try to give you an address for Carly, and she won't necessarily be able to respond to every single question, but we're going to try to make sure that we feed it into either a bulletin or a bulletin from the RDCK.
I'd like to ask my question.
It-
Sure, she can ask her questions after I'm done.
Okay. Same question or others? I'm just
I'll
checking.
have to thank these guys here.
Okay.
Maybe I was a bit rude a little earlier. Slocan people, how many Slocan people are here? How many of you own homes?
What?
There's a good majority of Slocan people missing, the poor people.
Hey, there's people online who
You know,
want to
I'm
know
looking
whose
at this
houses are going to be
situation-
protected. Please answer our questions.
And what
We
I'm
are
gonna say is
worried.
gonna break your hearts. I'm an Indian. You took my land on me.
Who is it?
Now you feel like my people did. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what I have to say.
It's an Indian? No, claiming his rights.
Can I just ask a couple of questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying about Mulvey Creek. Thanks for all that you're doing. I know it feels like a little bit too late for all of us. So you're saying it's under control then, Mulvey Creek? So it's out of control still?
The
Just checking.
fire is still out of control.
Okay.
But that line, we feel it is under control to the end of where we did that planned ignition.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you. I know that at the beginning of this whole fire, there's crews in our forests working. I know some of the people out there working, loggers and things like that, who are actually trained in S100, have water tanks, have heavy equipment. They're still working out there. They weren't even called to the fire. So when I came last week and they're like, oh, all local resources, we don't have resources. There's still people working in our forest. who had water tanks. They could have been up there in minutes. I fought fires. I fought fires in Penticton. I fought fires in Lillooet. I've been put on a mountainside with a fire like about as big as what I saw up there. And we had it out in 2 days. Built a guard. We did all these things. So I guess my question is, why aren't you using all the local resources?
So we, starting in the winter, in every fire zone, what the BC Wildfire Service does is we reach out to people who have equipment and they sign up with us. Some come to us, some we reach out to. And in the last few years, if you have noticed that there's been a downturn in the number of pieces of heavy equipment in the bush because there is not as many people in the logging industry and mining industry and all those
Company
things.
was ready to go though. They were trained like 2 weeks before this fire started.
Yeah, so we are using a bunch of people who have the training, who have the equipment, all from the local area.
That's not
So-
what I'm hearing. Why are there still people not working then? Because you're saying there's lack of local.
I don't
resources.
know. I can't speak to specifically each individual person who is or is not working.
Yeah.
We have hired the heavy equipment and
Not all of it.
sorry, you need,
Sorry.
no. We have hired the heavy equipment that we need to do the work that we are doing. And once that work is complete, we leave those strike teams, we call them, on standby. And I believe we'll have up to 4 strike teams of heavy equipment sitting on standby, waiting in case we need them. And we allocate, for example, heavy equipment where we require it to be used.
It's too
As-
bad they couldn't have got there in those 4 days when nothing happened.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying. My last question, real quick. Do you guys know which way the wind's blowing? Like you do this back burn. I've been on a back burn. I just stand there, a big, huge fire in front of me, watching for sparks. Do you know which way the wind's blowing? Because what I read in the forecast is erratic winds for the next few days, storms and rain. And you're going to go burn. How do you know which way the wind's going to blow? Because today on the river, it was blowing north, then it was blowing south, then it was blowing east. So I'm kind of wondering how you know, like if you guys have magic crystal.
We're out there just like you, taking weather readings, working with meteorologists, and we don't just light at a whim. If you have been out on fires, I'm
Yes.
sure you're well aware of that.
Mhm.
And as a person on the ground who has physically done it, and I'm going to assume if you've done that, one of the best indicators is those small hairs on the back of your neck and you're facing the fire. That's the direction the wind's blowing.
Yeah. Hopefully it keeps blowing in the right direction.
So
there's many
I
people
want to take this
online who want
opportunity to thank
answers. Please
my
answer our
colleagues at
questions
BC Wildfire
online.
Service for coming to this
Jesus.
public information meeting.
Rooster Road and all the people in danger of the backburn coming
Hopefully
towards
the
their home. They
information
just want
helped
answers.
clarify some questions that you had. And if you still do have some questions, they do have to leave. They have to get back to work. And I want to respect their time. Carly, what's so bcws.slocan.information@gov.bc.ca. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure our DCK that we put that information in one of our bulletins, just in case they don't see BC wildfires. So questions can go to them. They might show up as responses in an information bulletin from BC Wildfire Service or the regional district. So thank you very much for coming. We're going to stick around for a couple questions. If you're just the questions that were in line, if there's something that we can respond to, I'm happy to do that. I'm going to stay another 10 minutes for that. And otherwise, thank you very much for coming, everyone.
Hi.
You can either come here and ask your question unless you want it to the room. Some people are going to leave.
It's okay. I think you're underestimating how many people are really struggling with the ESS. And okay, I'm going to still speaking into the mic. I'm helping coordinate the Resilience Center that's operating out of the Appledale Hall. I think you're underestimating how many people are really struggling with the ESS. And I'd like to offer to help bridge that somehow. Maybe we can talk after.
Absolutely. I can't fix what I don't.
No, no, exactly. So we'll talk after. My other thing is actually a question. We've had a community forest in the Slocan Valley since 2007. The business manager and the forestry manager dedicated before that 20 years of their lives to understanding our land base. We have LiDAR information on that land base. We have incredible amount of data. Yeah. On FLAMAP. We have innumerable fire management areas.
Debbie Strong,
Today there
you're
was a
overpowering
request was
everybody
put
else.
in
Can you please mute?
by
Okay, the
one of
question,
Flynn
what
Road's
about the
fire
Ponderosa
behavioral
fire?
analysts
Deb, they
to
can't hear you.
take our manager
you're
into the
making it so
zone
other
so that
people
he
can't-
could better
can't hear.
understand what we have done in the area and how it might be of use. That request was denied. Can you speak to that and tell me that you're willing to reevaluate it?
I don't know about the request, but
Okay, well, let's
was
talk.
that a temporary access permit or something?
I'm not sure what the mechanism was, but I'd like to follow up with you on that
Oh
as
my
well.
God,
Then.
the
I don't know about it,
ESS
sorry.
is
Because,
so
you know,
easy.
And
if
and
there's
Get a
never a
phone,
local
get a
resource
computer.
that should be
It's
being
fucking
used,
easy.
it's CIFCO. And we cannot crack that door open.
and my understanding is that
Stefan.
my understanding is that Stefan and the incident commander that were up at the north end of the lake were actually talking quite a bit.
No.
Stefan had more information that was coming out than we knew.
No.
So I'm just going to close the questions publicly here and thank everyone who was online. I'm happy to stick around right here. There's a few people that needed to connect with me and I'm happy to do that. So thank you everyone online for coming and thank you everyone here for coming.
It's good, but I want to talk to this guy. Yep. Good. Yeah, my grandson struggling with this system.